Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Tinashe Mujera, and I'm here to invite you to something truly special. Authentically Woman will be hosting a transformative webinar titled A Journey to Discovering You. This event is more than just a webinar. It's a healing circle where women of faith can come together to explore self-discovery through the lens of our Christian beliefs and teachings. We'll delve into what it means to truly know ourselves, guided by biblical wisdom and the love of our faith community. In these uncertain times, it is easy to lose sight of our true selves. But together, we can find our way back to the heart of who we are, rooted in God's love and purpose for us. This is an opportunity to reflect, to share, and grow in a safe and nurturing environment. I truly believe that when women of faith come together, miracles happen. So join us for an evening of connection, inspiration, and spiritual renewal. Let's embark on this journey of self-discovery together and support one another. And we have something special just for you. We believe in the power of sisterhood, and we are offering a special promotion. Bring a sister along and she can join in for free. Yes, I said it, for free. Simply use the code WOMAN777 when you book your tickets on Quicket. But hurry, because the offer is limited and spots are filling up. Welcome to Authentically Woman, a sanctuary dedicated to empowering women. We are a faith-based healing circle focused on changing perspectives and inspiring healing through authenticity and vulnerability. Join us in this journey of empowerment and healing. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Tinashe Mujera. I'm an author, I'm a marketplace professional, and I'm a woman of God. I am a representation of tested faith. I represent my healed wounds that left ugly scars. This is the Faith in Action podcast that has been created to help you find the journey to your true self through conversations and lessons shared. Hi, everybody. Hello, 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 from whichever part of the world you're joining us from today. My name is Tinashe Mujira, and I am the host of the Faith in Action podcast. Super excited again for yet another exciting episode. I have a beautiful guest that's going to be joining us. But before I introduce her, I just want to talk about our upcoming webinar, A Journey to Discovering You, that you guys have been seeing us feature. Please and please get your tickets on Quicket. We don't want you to miss this beautiful and life-changing webinar. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be awesome. We have beautiful speakers. As you've noticed, we have just charged 150 rands for it. And with that, you are welcome to bring a sister for free. And there's going to be a lot of freebies that will be shared on the day. So I look forward to you getting your ticket, and I look forward to seeing you at the webinar, A Journey to Discovering You. Yes, we are here on the Faith in Action podcast. And as you know, we like to bring in real life conversations that change lives, that transform lives, that impact lives. We are not just about talking and conversing, but we are all about moving in faith for the kingdom. I'm joined by a powerful woman of God who really is anchored in faith tonight. Her name is Lisa Niemack. She is the founder of the Jayden Naidoo Foundation. And she's going to share a little bit about that and her story with us, a story of grief while mothering, how she navigated the loss of her son, Jayden, and how she ended up finding or really founding this Jason Naidu Foundation through her story of seeing her son through the experience of cancer, losing him, and how she navigated through grief. I think grief is something that we rarely talk about, especially in Christendom. And I believe this is going to be such an insightful and impactful conversation with Lisa. And without wasting much time, I would like for you guys to please help me welcome Lisa Niemack to the Faith in Action podcast. A mom, she is a woman of God. She's a daughter of the Most High. She says she works for a big logistics company. And of course, the Jayden Naidoo Legacy Foundation, which she has started, is something that has been anchoring her, but also changing lives. Lisa, welcome to the Faith in Action podcast.
Hi, Tina. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I count myself truly blessed and really honored to be part of this. So, thank you and welcome to everybody that's joined online.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa. We don't take your time and your presence and you coming through to the Faith in Action podcast for granted. So we appreciate the wisdom and the journey of faith that you've walked, that you're going to be sharing with us and the listeners in wisdom and in faith, because we are all about faith here on the Faith
Good,
in Action podcast. Lisa,
good.
do you want to just tell the people a little bit more about yourself, what you represent, who you are, and what makes you tick?
So I am Lisa Niemack. I am the eldest daughter uh, in the family. I am a mother of three: Jayden, Aman, and Isa. I am a project assistant at a large global recognized logistics company. Um, I am just a child of God. I follow his instructions. I've been tested, I've been tried, but I stand
Mhm.
firm in the scripture. I will never leave nor forsake you, because that has been my journey. He has carried me through. There are moments I don't even know how I made it, but I just stand and I say, thank you, Lord, for carrying me through. I am the founder of the Jayden Naidoo Legacy Foundation, together with my mother and my sister, who were the other two directors. So, yeah, we just carried the vision forward in paving hope forward to others.
Wow, wow. Absolutely love what you shared with us on, when we were asking you about who you are. And I love the meaning of your name. I actually didn't know that Lisa means God's oath or the promise of God. Absolutely amazing. And then we just realized the power of names, right? And how they literally just carry us into destiny. And we don't realize until such a time when purpose is unveiled to us. I think I'm also getting an awakening of my name and what it truly represents. And now walking the
Yeah.
journey, I'm like, okay, it was never a mistake. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
And maybe just even how you name your children, particularly Jayden, so that we can, and then we just dive into whatever else.
Yes, so yes, Lisa means God is my oath or God's promises. It was a name that my uncle shared with my mother, and so I was um, given the name Lisa, which has carried me through. I think I got to a stage in my life when I was going through quite a bit. And I was doing some research, and something came up on Facebook regarding the name Lisa and Elizabeth. And so when I looked into it and I did more research, that's where I discovered the real meaning. And from then, I had just latched and locked on, and use that as strength, um, through everything, through every experience, through the journey of life. So I'm so grateful for my name, and I've always, when it came to naming my children, Jaden's name was actually given by my mother. She had a dream that Jaden's name was, it was written in fire.
Wow.
And I woke up that morning and she called me into the room and she's like, because we didn't know what, what name to give him. And she said, "Oh, he will be called Jayden." And I
Wow.
said, "Jayden?" And she's like, "Yes, the Lord has shown me this name in fire and it will be spelled Jayden." And I
Wow.
was like, "Okay." And she went to church because she works for a church, and her and the one pastor was researching this name. And so Jaden meant to rebuild
Wow.
and to restore. And
Wow.
so, okay, I like that name, and I was like, okay, I can work with this. And so we kept his name Jaden, and then came
Wow.
along my second son, Aman. And Aman means the peaceful one. But when you research it, it is an Arabic name. When you research it, it speaks about this outgoing personality. I always call him my sunshine yellow. And because Jaden was so like reserved and stuff. And so I was like, oh, this child needs to be more outgoing and stuff. So when I was looking for a name, I came through Tyler Perry. His son's name is Amon, but I just spelled Amon's name different. I put a double A instead of one A. And so yeah, that so I took to that name. And then my daughter is Isa, which means the respectful one. And and I thought, what a perfect name, because she's a girl. She's the only girl amongst the two boys. And I mean, there's nothing more, I think, attractive than a respected
Yeah.
female.
Yeah.
And so she is also my fiery red, because she's also very strict and very stern in a way. So it's her way or the highway. So so yeah, I always looked and researched their names and just looked for with the you know um um type of personality that I wanted. I just looked at who I am, who the dad is, and just took it from there. So I also prayed about it and made sure that the names are in alignment. And so yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely love that, Lisa. Thank you for sharing. I mean, I believe strongly in the power of naming and names, and I think it's something we need to bring forth for those that are listening, those that are watching us. That when you do name, particularly your children, even your ministries, your
Mhm.
businesses, whatever you do that you name, it has to come from a place of depth and understanding the purpose and core upon your life and what God has really called you for or wants you to accomplish or
Mhm.
establish.
Mm.
Amen. And then you talk
Yeah.
about Joshua 1:5. I will never leave you nor forsake you.
Yes.
And Psalms 46:5. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. I loved that. And
Yeah.
then Proverbs 31:25. She's clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about those three scriptures, why they're so important to you, and why they matter to you, or why they're your favorite scriptures?
Well, Joshua 1 and 5, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. That was God's promise to me,
Mm.
that He would carry me through whatever obstacle or challenge that came my way. So that scripture was actually revealed to me when Jayden was diagnosed with leukemia, and that was one of the first scriptures that was implanted in my spirit. And
Mm,
so I've latched onto it ever since. And
mm,
when I looked at life even before Jayden was diagnosed, I saw um, God's been there
mm,
through it all. Um, and then, yeah, the second scripture, with the other scripture, Proverbs, she's clothed with strength and dignity. I always, you worry today about, the problems that you face. But when you know who your God is, or who God is to you, I mean,
mm,
you can just really sit back and be like, why am I stressing? You know,
mm.
you can just know that you will overcome it. You will overcome, and you will have a laugh in between. So that's how I look at
Oh,
that scripture. And God always, you know, they say sorrow may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. So He
mm.
always renews your strength and strengthens you the next day. So I can't, yeah, I really latch on to those scriptures and carry them with me on a daily basis and through every trial and tribulation and challenge that comes my way.
Amazing, Lisa. I think sometimes it's really easier said, than done.
That's
But
true.
I believe that your story is really a testament of it being done, even in the pain. And that's what we're here for. We want to hear about, particularly about grief and how you navigated the loss of Jayden, and his life story. Look, now tell me a little bit about who he was as a person, and what are some of your favorite memories of him that you recall, and those 11 years that you had with him. When in hindsight, I mean, it's 4 years now, I think,
Yes,
and
for
when you
going
look
on 5.
going
Yes.
on 5. When you look back, Lisa, what do you see? What does that whole period, what does it resemble? What did it mean for you?
Yeah. So just a bit about Jaden. Jaden was an old soul.
Mm,
From the time he was born. I remember he was 2 weeks old when we took him to church, and everybody was like, "He's still so small. Why are you bringing him to church?" And I was like, "He needs to know. He needs to know God. He needs to know church." And so he grew up with a very mature spirit, a very mature person. And wherever he went, he was favored, and he just had this. Uh, he had a uniqueness, with him. Really, he was a gift. And so
mm,
whoever he connected with was always touched by him. And I remember once he asked me, he's like, we were sitting, I think he was like 5 or 6. And when it's Heritage Day, they got to dress up. And he said to me, Mom, but who am I? Like, what am I? And I'm like, what do you mean, child? He's like, you colored and my dad's Indian. So what does it make me? And I was like, I paused for a minute and I was like, you're like a box of crayons.
wow.
And he looked at me, he's like, a box of crayons. I said, yes, you're made up of all colors, and you, when you color in a picture, it takes a down picture and it makes it look pretty. But when
That's
he connected with somebody, and I said to him, when you connect with others, you just add some sort of joy to their lives. And I think that's where his name also started kicking in, because I saw the pattern that whoever he spoke to, he was always on a mature level, like adults would say. This is not a child. It's like, when we're talking to an adult, because he was so
yeah,
mature. and
sure.
and he always left them with a smile or with a sense of, you know fulfillment, or like, I
Wow.
appreciate you or I love you, you know? And
Wow.
so yeah, he was just unique in his own way. And you know, as he got older, I think he was about 9 or 10, and then The Big Bang Theory came up,
Yes.
that show, and, he wanted to be an astrophysicist, and I was like,
Wow.
what is this?" And I had no idea. So you studied the stars, and he got that from, The Big Bang Theory. So he was so, um I think that's where his preparation actually started for his journey,
Mm,
was when he was introduced to the galaxy, because he always wanted to know what is beyond the stars.
mm,
And, and I remember when he was going through radiation, he would speak to even the team as well, and he would tell them, yeah, you know, about their radiation stuff, and he would tell them about the stars in the galaxy, that they
wow.
even used to call him Sheldon Cooper. They never addressed him as Jayden Naidoo. They would come with his file and be like, "Sheldon Cooper, it's your turn." And whenever they came out of there, they always came out laughing. So he was just this
Wow.
he was unique in his own way, and a blessing
Wow.
to us all. Mm.
Wow. I can tell from the way you express and the joy that is exuding from you, and as you passionately speak about him, and just what a blessing he is. And I can only imagine, what that 11 years really looked like. So, Lisa, from the time he got ill, can you take us through that journey? How did you realize, or when did you know that Jayden had cancer? um, what was the reaction in the moment or the emotions that came through, and what next steps, what were the next steps you guys took in trying to get him help?
So Jayden never showed any symptoms of being, sick. We went down to, the Midlands for my cousin's wedding, and, we had stopped, or he traveled with my mother, I traveled, a bit later, but they had stopped and they bought a burger, and in this burger was 2 pieces of glass, in the burger. So he was fine after that, you know, my mother did the formalities of reporting it and stuff, and, he was fine when I got to him, he was fine. He showed no signs of being sick or anything. The next morning, we woke up, he was still fine. But then later on in the afternoon, I saw that he just started becoming really drained. And I thought maybe it was the change in climate. You know, when you're going from Johannesburg down to Durban
Yeah.
side, you know, the weather change, it's more humid down that side. So I from baby, I knew that the weather always affected him because we are from Durban, so we used to visit there quite often. So I took it that it was that.
Mm,
Later on in the evening at the wedding, he started getting sick. And
mm,
so we took him, he slept. The next day he woke up, he was very run down. And I was like, okay, let's get back home. Let's get back to Johannesburg. So we
mm,
got back. And then when we got back, he said, no, he's feeling fine. The next morning,
mm.
he woke up, he was covered with blue marks,
Sure.
all these bruises over his body. And I said to him, Jayden, what happened? You look like you were
Mm,
abused, you know, because his body was covered. So, I mean, straight away we took him for tests, um, and obviously to have scans and sonars done to make sure that it wasn't the glass, to make sure, yeah, that the glass didn't damage anything. And then they said, no, it's something more deeper. And I was so
mm,
confused because I couldn't understand what deeper could this be.
mm,
And so he was admitted into hospital, they ran their tests, and then the doctor came back to me a day later, and he was like, "Jayden has leukemia."
Phew.
And I looked at him. Now, you know, I had this, like, blank moment because you've heard the name leukemia before, but in
Mm.
that moment, you're just blank as to what is leukemia? And that's what I said to him, "What is that?" And then he's like, "It's cancer." And I was like, "What did I miss?" That was the first question I asked him was, "What did I miss?"
Sure.
Because I'm the type of mother that if they sneeze, we're gonna treat that. If I see that they laying still, then I know something's wrong. So that was my first question. What did I miss? Because I was so protective of him, and I ensured that, he was always treated on time and that he was always healthy and stuff. And so that just that moment turned my world upside down.
Mm.
And I was like, the doctor was still talking to me, and I think I just sat there blank. And he said to me, "Okay, he's made other arrangements to transfer him to another hospital to get the proper treatment under a
Sure.
professor." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And I'm just like, "Okay, okay." And in my mind, I am like, "But Lord, really?"
Sure.
And I was like, "Really?" And I I was I was in shock. Really was in a lot of shock, you know? And, I remember on the way home, I cried my eyes out because I thought, "How do I tell my child this?"
Sure.
You know? I had to leave him at the hospital and go home, and I couldn't be with him in those, in that time. So, yeah, it was a life-changing moment, but in that life-changing moment, and I remember, after crying myself to sleep, while I was sleeping, I felt such a sense of peace come over me, and I felt like my strength was being renewed and like strength was building in me. And that's
Mm.
where Joshua 1:5 came in. "I'll never leave you nor forsake you,"
Mm.
because that was God's promise that He would be with me through this journey because I asked why.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and He just said, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." So I woke up from that sleep and I was like, "Okay, let's do this." And
Wow.
I wiped my eyes, I washed my face, and I was like, "Okay, so this is it. This is the
Wow.
reality. Let's do this. Let's face it."
Wow, so that's amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing because it feels like that was a time of you being refilled and being given capacity for what was ahead. Just like Elijah was given the food, get up and eat because the journey is still far. Yeah. And then
Yes.
we hear about him, running for 40 days. My goodness. So I believe that that was your moment or your encounter
Yes,
of being refilled and capacitated for the journey that was going to be ahead. Um,
yes.
Many people struggle with anger towards God, especially, after facing such a loss. And you, as a mother, how did you reconcile the pain of losing the child or losing your child? Um, and also reconciling that with being a faith believer and being a child of God who's supposed to be protective, who's supposed to, keep and make sure we are okay. We have that narrative and then we don't expect anything negative to happen in our lives because,
Yes.
when loss and pain comes, it's difficult to navigate. How did you manage?
I must be very honest with you. My anger only kicked in 2 years after Jayden passed away
Wow.
or passed on. That's when my anger really settled in, and, it broke me. It really broke me because it was anger that was built, like, from my gut, and it felt like my heart was being stabbed. So I walked around for days and for months feeling this pain that I just couldn't understand. Why now? Why 2 years after he's passed on? I mean, I went through I managed to carry myself and bring myself to a stage of peace, and now this anger builds up, and it was a very confusing, time for me. And, I always say that, when your world is turned upside down, your faith is shaken. And that's, I felt like, like, why now? I had all this strong faith with me, and I carried myself strong, and here's this anger. I that anger led me to having a burnout,
Mm.
and I actually ended up seeking psychiatric help because
Sure.
I couldn't understand the anger, you know. And in that time, it's you asking God, like, why now?
Sure.
Why? Why this anger? And when I saw this psychologist, and she recommended that I have some time out, and the only way I was going to get it was to go into the psychiatric ward. And even then too, I questioned and I said, "But Lord, why are you taking me here? Because this
Sure.
is not where I want to be." In the morning that I checked in, I received a call from from an evangelist in Cape Town, and he said to me, he's like, "Lisa, how are you?" And I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Lisa, what's going on?" And I said to him, "Well, Evang, I'm at this point. I am burnt out. I have this anger in me that I can't understand and I can't control." And this anger came from a dream that I had. Just to touch on, when Jayden passed on, his body had a medical reaction, so his features and his complexion changed completely. That when I went to identify him, I couldn't recognize my child. I had to go
Sure.
in a second time to identify him, and I managed to look at his hands and his feet, because that was like, something that was just like unique. He had these thin, long, narrow feet and these long fingers, and I was like, okay, this is my child. And even then, I was like, but Lord, why are you doing this? Why does my child look like this? This is not.
Sure.
This looks like somebody else, And I kept asking, did I bury the right person? Did I identify the same person? So in that dream that I had that triggered all this anger, Jaden was saying to me, "Oh, mom, I miss you so much," and that dream broke me, because I
Mm.
thought to myself, did I do the right thing? Now you're questioning yourself, and you
Mm.
just like, what is this? Did I do the right thing? And like, oh Lord, what have I done?
Yeah.
Did I miss something? And so
Sure.
I questioned myself and stuff. And then the evangelist found that morning, and he said
Mm.
to me, "Lisa, what's happening?" And he said, "The Lord is telling me," he put a word in him to say that where I am right now is where he wants me to be. He
Wow.
allowed this to happen, and
Mm.
he's taken me into this place, not just for healing, but to be an inspiration to others,
Mm.
but also to um, break off some cycles, some patterns, and to connect me with other people. And I won't lie, it was it was such a different experience. When people hear psychiatric ward, they just think that
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of
Yeah.
crazy people, but there's not.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
There's people in there that that are just there seeking some sort of peace and some sort
True.
of healing. And
Yeah.
so it was in that time, and I remember the evangelist's words. He said, "You will be healed, and God will be with you." And he
Wow.
said to me, "I will check in with you in a few days." And then it was like, I think 4 or 5 days later, he also called me. And we were having this chat, but I also had this pain in my neck into my shoulder. And he said to me, "Lisa, you got this pain from your neck to your shoulder." I said,
Mm.
"Yes." And he's like, "Can you feel that warm feeling?" And I was like, "Yes." He's like,
Mm.
God is healing you right now. And I won't
Oh,
lie, I was sitting at a window and the sun was shining behind me, but it just got so bright and so warm. And I was like
oh,
just in this un-
wow.
divine glow. And
Oh,
I've never had that pain since then. But he also said, you know, in that time, he also said to me, because you know, after you lose a child, it's hard for you to connect with the other kids. And he said to me, you know, God is showing him that there's like a thin layer of ice between myself and the kids, and it's because of the hurt or the anger that I had in me that I didn't, that I was
yeah,
dealing with. But he said
yeah,
he's breaking that ice, and so yeah, it was a time of healing. It was a time where I really got to focus on me. I got to meditate. And get to see Jayden, you know, in the meditation. I'll never forget. It was on the day, it was his second year anniversary of his passing. And it was on that day that God allowed me to have a different vision of Jayden, because, you know, the last image I had of him was when I went to go and identify that body that
mm,
didn't look like him. So now I
yes,
had a new image, and there was so much refreshing, so much healing that took place in that time. And I connected with people that have helped me in the foundation, you know, and
oh,
I was in inspiration to them as well. And I remember sewing like into everybody, just giving
oh,
back. Like there was a girl, I gave her a box of coloring pencils because she loved to draw. There was a lady that was just feeling heavy, and so I gave her a scarf, and I was like, you know, may the Lord cover you
oh,
with this. And I mean, we still connect up till today. So it
yes,
was definitely, you know, a time of healing, a time of letting go of that anger. That anger had to be installed in me to really give me a whole new insight to this journey. And anger is part of grieving. It
yeah.
is part of grieving. It just doesn't happen straight. For me, it didn't happen straight away. It happened 2 years later.
Wow, amazing.
Mm.
Amazing, Lisa, that you've still experienced anger 2 years later. So you've been numb all this time and you've been moving on with life, and then it just hits you just like that.
It
And I
just,
suppose it was time, maybe because God was birthing this new journey of how you then, like you say, this is where you met people that have found help you find or to establish the Jayden Naidoo Foundation. Um,
yeah.
yeah, oh, yeah, amazing, Lisa.
Mm.
I mean, I'm trying to just, reconcile that and a lot of people think that the anger is within it's in that time frame, but I mean we are we all go through it differently and we all
Mhm.
experience it differently. I think the biggest thing for me was how you were actually aware that I'm feeling so much anger all of a sudden and I don't know what's going on with me. I think that is always important when you get to a place of self awareness and understanding what's going on in you, that you may get the perspective, for God to be able to deal and almost heal you. But most people sometimes, or some people sometimes, don't have that self awareness. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that, Lisa. Now, I believe you speak to different women because it's usually us that grieve and that carry, particularly the loss of a child. There is an attachment to the womb, an attachment to you know to the mother. And I'm sure there's so many women, and particularly single women as well, single mothers just like you, that experience similar losses. What spiritual advice do you offer them? How do you help them navigate through this journey? And what would you share with the listeners and watchers today, that have also experienced similar?
You know, normally one of the first things I say to them is that God is in control. He knows our beginning to our end, and He will never give us more than we can handle.
Mm,
So you got to know who God is to you. And you really have to stand firm in that. Um, so many of them say, "But why me? I've been through so much, and I just can't understand." And I'm like, "But why not you?
Yeah.
You know, has God not chosen you and set you aside for this journey, for His purpose, for His will to be done through you?"
Sure.
And I always tell them, just look at the reality from a different view. And this is, I got this from doing Mind Power with Robin Banks.
Mm,
It's the first chapter in the Mind Power book of looking at reality from a different view. And so
wow.
that's where I always, start them off on um, this, or the advice that I give them, and from there I start to help them to unpack, what was your child's name? What was the meaning of the child's name? And I
Wow.
always say you have to have that grounding. You have to have some spiritual grounding, because that is going to be your guide. You know, the
Yeah.
this yeah, God will, He will answer you. It might not be straight away, but He will answer all your whys. And He does it in so many forms and in so many ways and through so many different people. So that, and I say, it might just be all much now, but be gentle with yourself. Be gentle, give yourself that space, that time. Be present in your emotions and in your feelings. Acknowledge them. Journal. Write down um, what you're feeling. Is there a memory that comes up? You know, um, I'll share just a quick story. The one day I was driving to work. So Jayden had this song for me, You Must Be a Special Lady. And it's by, I think, Ray Goodman and his crew. And the words in that song was, you must be a special lady because you got me sitting on top of the world. You turned my gray skies to blue. And I remember driving to work that one morning. Goodness, sorry, I just want to
No worries.
adjust this. And
He
I
heard
was, yeah, and and that morning, it was a dull day. My spirit was dull. And when I got to the robot, the song came on, and it's the first time that I actually really paid attention to the words and why he liked this song, because he would
Wow.
always call me and say, "Mum, let's dance," and it was this song. And when the part came, "You turned my gray skies to blue," it went from being a cloudy day, looking like rain, and the sun came out. So there was sunshine. And I was like, I got that sense of peace that came over me. And I was like, okay, now I understand why he liked that song, you know.
Wow.
And this is what I always encourage other parents as well, pay attention to the songs that they like, because sometimes there's a meaning behind that, and it will also bring you to a space of healing as well.
Wow.
So I latch on to music plays a very important role for me in terms of bringing me to a place of relaxation, as well as some of the words just carry me through a bad phase that I'm going through, be it a gospel song, be it a old school Manhattans or Isley Brothers song, or sometimes it's even the classical music as well. They can just bring you to a place of peace. But the songs that have words, you just pay attention to that. That can be your healing as well.
Wow. Wow. Remember what they liked. Go back to the meaning of their names, the
Mm,
grounding, see beyond the reality and get more perspective in terms of what that experience or having them meant for you.
mm,
Absolutely love that, Lisa. Now, going into the Jayden Naidoo Legacy Foundation, which is an absolutely beautiful tribute to your son. What was the turning point for you in deciding to channel your grief and creating this beautiful foundation. Like what what happened?
Mm.
I mean, we want to hear the story.
So the foundation was actually Jayden's idea. Um,
Wow.
we had done mind power when he was going through the radiation phase. And, radiation really drains you. And so Jaden was starting to also become depressed. And they wanted to put him on antidepressants. And I said, no, I'm not keen on that. And then I remembered Robin had a seminar, intro. And I said, I just need to get my child into that space. I just want him to experience, a high vibration of positive energy, instead of putting him on antidepressants. And so when I tried to book the tickets, it was all sold out. And so I sent a message to the WhatsApp number, explained the case, and I said, please just give me 2 spaces. I just want to
Yeah.
bring my son into this positive vibe.
Um,
And I want like from that our world open because we got so much more than just those 2 spaces. We did the
um,
Mind Power course, and with that came in creating a vision board. And so in when Jaden was creating his vision board, he was like adding pictures of feeding schemes and stuff. And I said, Jaden, what is this about? And he's like, oh no, he needs to give back.
wow.
He's been so blessed in this journey. He lacked nothing. He was short of nothing. And my grandmother always says, Jaden was really spoiled, but not rotten spoiled, but just spoiled. He lacked nothing. And even through his journey, he lacked absolutely nothing. He got the
Wow.
best treatment. He got the best gifts. He got
Wow.
the best. And
Wow.
so he always acknowledged that he was blessed. And that idea came in that he needs to give back. And so he's like, we need to set up a foundation. And I was like, okay, fine. And at that time, he was in remission and stuff. So I said, okay, we will, let's look into it and we will register the foundation. But, we need to talk
Yes.
how we're going to do it. What are we going to do? And
Um,
we never got to register the foundation when he was
wow.
alive because he relapsed. And so we had to focus on his health again, and obviously our last leg of the journey. And the foundation was actually registered when I was in that psychiatric ward when I was going through that phase because it was 2 years later, but it felt the timing just felt right. And I
Wow.
was reminded again to give back. This was the vision. It was there for a reason. It was installed in him for a reason. And
Mm,
when I looked back at everything in my life, his life, the people we met on the journey, the support, the prayers, and I was like, okay, it's time to give back. And so that's when I registered the foundation, and we've just carried it through. Um, in giving back, paving hope forward, and just being a blessing to others, it's brought about such healing in terms of when we go out and we give. I always make sure, just like how Jaden was blessed with the best, we always give out
mm,
the best,
mm,
and we strive, we carry that forward, that, and I always try to, when I pray and I'm like, Lord, okay, who does this need to go to? Because it needs to go to the right people.
that's
And so I'm
right.
always led to the right organizations, to the right people, to the right communities. And when you get there and you bless them and you give out to them, they're like, you are heaven sent, You
Mm,
you've answered our prayers. And you always receive such warm smiles of appreciation. And it's like, okay, this was the vision. This
mm,
was the giving back that he wanted, that he wanted to achieve. So we just
wow.
carry that through. And we always ensure that, you know, his vision is carried
Wow.
through with the best quality. You know, yeah, we really make sure that everything is done to standard.
Wow, Lisa, this is
Mhm.
an absolute testimony of turning pain into power. And I cannot believe that this young boy wrote a vision. He left you with the blueprint of what his life was supposed to be and what it needed to represent. It's absolutely amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
and I must applaud you for having the ability and strength to tap into that world and understanding to deduce it and make it happen in reality too. You could have taken it for granted, but you didn't. And here we are, and we're seeing the impact, and we're seeing the
mhm,
rebuilding and the restoration that Jayden's life represents, and into so many more lives, more than his age and more than what he would have probably done if he were here today. So well
yeah,
done, well done.
yeah,
Now, you know, um, I want to understand how this, the foundation itself, how it continues to uplift you spiritually. But also, I mean, you've shared a little bit on the people that, this lives are changed when you give, when you help them. What is the foundation about? What do you give? Maybe also that so that everybody can get context, and understanding of the foundation itself. Is it food hampers? Do you feed? Is it clothing? What is the legacy? What does it do? But also the foundation, what does it do? But also, what impact has that had on your spiritual life and those of the ones you touch?
so our foundation is just based on paving hope forward, giving back. So we don't just say we only do feeding, because today um, there are all sorts of needs and requests that come through, and it's hard for us to say sorry. Our foundation doesn't assist with this, so we don't limit ourselves to what we do. We receive clothing. We do feeding projects. We do, we've done an introduction to mind power for teens, and that is the vision for 2025, to really carry that out and to um, get the youth to know about mind power. We also want to tap into wellness in terms of taking care of yourself, but also putting care packages together. And that's what we've started, is putting care packages for children's homes and for the children in the communities. We receive a donation once every 2 or 3 months from a hotel. So we get like bedding, we get towels, face cloths, and from there we just build up all these different packages and you
Sure.
distribute it. And I mean, it is like so appreciated when you give that out.
Wow.
On a spiritual level, again, God said He will never leave nor forsake me. So when it's not easy, in terms of having a foundation and getting in, getting funding, getting the things, even the preparation, it doesn't
Mm.
come easy. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of your energy. You need to call in resources, but God has been faithful. He
Wow.
really has been faithful. He always sends us earth angels to help us. I mean, we've got transporters that come on board and do our collections for us. Um, just Mandela Day that passed by, I needed a transporter, and 10 o'clock at night I go in our post, like, transport needed, like somebody please help.
Sure.
And by 7 o'clock the next morning, I received a text and saying, "Hi, Lisa, please send me the details. I will gladly assist." So, yeah,
Mm.
once again, God has showed up. Um,
Mm.
because I had no idea who to turn to. And I
Mm.
remember going to bed and I'm being like, Lord, okay, we've come this far. And now here seems to be a stumbling block. I said, but I'm going to pray. I'm leaving this. in your hands. And I said, I'm going to bed. And I know that the next day you will come through for me. You will come through for me. And he did. He did. He came through for me. And like I say, he comes through. Whatever we do is blessed. It
Wow.
is really, really blessed because we never fall short of anything. You know,
Wow.
we set the vision, we set the plan, and we make a list of what we need, and it's provided. It
Wow.
is provided for. We get in resources as far as Cape Town, as far as Durban. We get people connecting with us. We don't even know who these people are.
Wow.
But, you know, and then I'm just reminded, you know, like my God is faithful. He will never leave nor forsake me. And He answers me. I call on Him and He answers. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I was, you know, my faith just builds up, my spirituality just builds up. And even
Wow.
this past weekend as well, you know, I was sitting in church and I was so heavy hearted, and I was like, Lord, you know, you see the foundation, you see um, what we need to do. You know, I was reminded again of Jaden's vision and his words and what he wanted to accomplish. And I was like, okay, Lord, I think it's time now to take this to a next level. And it's
Mm.
so funny that the word that came from the pastor for me was just lean on me.
Sure.
And I said, okay, Lord, it's me and you, you know.
Wow.
And I'm like, I've given you, you know, this is the vision and this is the thing. And so let's just continue.
Wow.
And it took me, those words also just took me back to, you know, the day Jayden passed as well. We were in that hospital room, and um, he was wrestling and stuff, and I was like, I noticed he had no pulse. So I shouted, "Stop!" to everybody, and I said to the nurses, "Please step aside." And I went forward to Jayden and I said to him, "Okay, you just need to calm down." And he could see that I was serious because he knew my face, you know, he looked straight into my eyes and he just calmed down. And I I anointed his forehead, I gave him a kiss on the cheek, and I said, "No matter what happens, don't be afraid." And he calmed down, and I took a step back and I said, "Right, Lord, he's yours." And I
Sure.
said, let it be. And I said to Jayden, "Don't be afraid." And I said to the nurses, "You can continue." And he remained calm. But that peace that came over me is just so undescribable. Really, it's a peace that surpasses all understanding. And you know, and at that moment, I leaned on the Lord because He said He will not leave nor forsake me, and I just stuck on that, and I kept that. I kept that, and so even over the weekend when I received that word, lean on me, and I was like, yes, Lord, I will lean on you, and I will be obedient. The challenges has been really strong, but I stand every morning. I get up around 2 a.m. and I d- I remind myself. I always take myself back on this journey because I see where the Lord has brought me to where I am now, and it just increases my faith. It increases my spirituality as well, and I it continue to push forward. I have a mission,
Wow.
and I'm not going to rest until the mission is accomplished.
Wow, Lisa. Man, she's thank you so much for sharing that depth. I'm really moved. I'm really, really touched. And especially that act of faith, even at a time where you could see that he's leaving now,
Yeah,
and all those actions that you took in strength. And I understand now those scriptures and why they anchor you. But that can only be God. And that can only
yes,
be God in you in faith. Last question, Lisa, maybe two last questions. Our time is running out. I can see already
no problem.
so quickly. Um, if Jayden were here today, what do you think he would say to you? about the Jayden Naidoo Legacy Foundation and all the work that you are doing in His name. And the last question or the last question, the last part, I would ask you to just share a few encouraging words to parents out there that are navigating through loss and what you would want them to know from your story.
So if Jaden was here, and I can feel the emotions starting to build up, he would
Mm,
say, "Well done, Mum. I know it's not easy, but just know that I'm proud of you. I will be cheering. I will be cheering you on, because he was my cheerleader.
wow.
He knew when I had down moments. He knew
Yeah.
when I had good moments, and he would cheer me on through everything. And he would say, I love you, and I'm very proud of you, and keep going. And so, I, yeah, sometimes I just hear, well done, Mum, or I'm proud of you. And so, yeah, those would be his words to me. Um, I think to grieving parents, or to um, anybody that's experiencing loss, is um, God will answer all your whys.
Amen.
Just stay faithful in prayer, even when it's hard to pray and when you feel empty. That
Mm,
E in that empty stands for enough for God to do His will in you and through you.
mm,
And it will all be done for his glory. You might not understand it straight away, but you will understand it someday. Be
wow.
patient, be gentle with yourself, and be blessed.
Wow. Wow. Lisa Niemack, thank you. Thank you, my dearest sis, for such
Thank you,
an
team.
for such
Mhm.
wisdom and inspiring us to navigate or look at grief from a different lens view and
Mhm.
just understanding it differently. I mean, you got me thinking. I also have lost a child differently, though. I went into preterm labor before my daughter, and the my son only was in neonatal. He only lasted 3 days, and I remember every moment. I mean, he was just 700 grams, so it was just looking at the child and not being able to do anything. And I remember struggling and battling with such a loss and not knowing what to do, until one day the Lord reminded me, and just like you said, in your empty He fills you. And for me, the I mean, the acceptance came when He said to me, a firstborn seed, or the first seed, is always given unto me. And when He's
Mhm.
given unto me, is because I'm calling them to intercede on your behalf. So every
Yes, Lord.
time, that was my that and it came after months as well, and that was my turning point of understanding and coming to peace, to be at peace with the loss, and saying, oh wow, God, okay, I understand now that Israel is interceding in heaven for me, and he's a
Mhm.
firstborn seed, so he had to come back, just like
Yes,
Jaden is a firstborn seed. He had to be
yes.
planted back, and now look at the vision and all that is happening, that he also wrote down and
Mhm.
shared with you, Lisa. So there's no mistake in God. Thank you so much for inspiring us. Um, to all the watchers, to all the listeners, some of the nuggets that Lisa was just sharing is, you have to come to a point of being aware of what is happening within you to be able to navigate through grief. You have to look beyond the reality, and this came about when she was able to go through the Robin Banks Mind Power seminar. I think is important for each and every one of us to really go through life transforming that, and understanding that God capacitates us, for the journey ahead. That
Yes.
Joshua 1:5 I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And that dream that you had in the night that you knew that your son had leukemia, she says, take time to look at the details. What is happening
Mhm.
around you, around this child? What did they write down? What did their name mean? What did they love? What are the memories you still have? And it's all about changing hearts and having faith and being anchored in God. She said that God will answer all your whys, and in your empty, the E means enough. And wow, 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 wow. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you so
We
much,
wish
Tina.
you well. And may the Jayden Naidoo Legacy Foundation live on. It will live on. It will live on. And may many sponsors, may many donors, even from abroad, hear about this cause and want to plant a seed in it, because it is a godly vision, and it is about Jayden. It's not about Lisa, and he wrote it down,
Yeah.
and so it should live on. And we pray that the hand of God will never leave all that you do. To all those that are watching, that are listening, that do want to partake in this beautiful cause, that do want to donate anything, shoes, clothes, whatever it is, food packs, care packs. She says they take it all, and they're not limited, because Jayden was not limited. His vision was cast far and wide, and that's what we want to see happen. Lisa, how can the people get a hold of you quickly before we close off the show?
They can either call or WhatsApp me at 061 3844 And we have an email address. It's jayden.naidoo.legacy@gmail.com. Or they can connect with us on Facebook, like our page, the Jayden Naidoo Legacy Foundation, MPC. So, yeah.
Amazing. The Jayden Naidoo Legacy Foundation, NPC, on Facebook. Do
Yeah.
you want to repeat that number again, the cell phone
Yes.
number?
So yes, you can call or WhatsApp 061 3844 and we
Amazing.
will be in touch. Yeah.
Amazing. Lisa, it was an
Yeah.
absolute pleasure having you here. Thank you once more for gracing us with your presence and sharing this beautiful story, but also helping us to navigate grief, what it means, and how we can see beyond the reality. Absolutely amazing. To all those that are watching, that are listening, this is the Faith in Action podcast, and yet another inspiring faith based, faith anchored story that Lisa Niemack was sharing with us in tribute of the Jayden Naidoo Legacy Foundation, that was founded by her son, who's now in heaven and is an angel. But he wrote the vision down for what he wanted to see his life manifest or impart. I'm truly, truly moved, and I hope you've also learned a thing or two tonight. And that if you're navigating through loss, that God will fill you. He'll give you the capacity, and in your empty, He is enough. Remember the scripture that says, when we are weak, then He is strong. And with that said, we are going to close off the Faith in Action podcast show for tonight. Until next time, it's goodbye for now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Tinashe Mujera. I'm an author, I'm a marketplace professional, and I'm a woman of God. I am a representation of tested faith. I represent my healed wounds that left ugly scars. This is the Faith in Action podcast that has been created to help you find the journey to your true self through conversations and lessons shared.